Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. I'd like China to help us out with Russia. Those were Donald Trump's words as he started his Asia tour. On Monday, the president arrives in Japan. Now, Trump and Xi Jinping are set to meet this Thursday also in South Korea. The visit comes amid ongoing negotiations on trade, regional stability, and U.S. engagement in Asia. And joining us now to discuss the developments is Jagannath Panda, Director, Stockholm Center for South Asian and Indo-Pacific Affairs. Welcome to TVP World. Good to have you.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I want to begin with this whole idea of the trip. I mean, Trump is already lauding his successes, looking at that whole peace deal that he's made now between Cambodia and Thailand. What do you expect now? What's the next leg of the trip going to result in from President Trump?
Well, politically, this is a significant trip for President Donald Trump because this will, in a way, define his foreign policy approaches, not only to the key Asian countries, but also in Indo-Pacific at large. This trip, as you rightly mentioned, it will touch upon Japan. It will also touch upon, some of the critical Southeast Asian countries, and also possibly including South Korea. So in a way, it is going to define his approach to the Asian critical countries that matters to the U.S. foreign policy as well as to the Indo-Pacific community. But more than that, I think this will also set a context for the American foreign policy approaches towards China. And I think the whole approach here is that how much business deals or the trade contacts, the trade negotiations he could achieve during this trip. And therefore, we'll see some talks and discussions heating up both in U.S. ASEAN context as well as in U.S. Southeast Asian members context on exports, imports, dimensions of the trade talks, as well as on the U.S. China trade and economic ties.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I mean, these are also big personalities. Donald Trump likes this. We saw him dancing in Malaysia on his arrival. He likes to have success. It's about showmanship as well, but also about relationships. I think very personal relationships. I want to just share with you and our viewers now a clip from President Trump about this, because I want to talk more about next also what he's going to do with China. Let's roll that now.
Love China to help us out with Russia. We put very big sanctions on Russia. I think those sanctions are going to be, they're very biting, they're very strong. But I'd like to see China help us out. I have a good relationship with, as you know, President Xi. Very good. We're going to be meeting. We'll have a good meeting. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a great meeting, maybe a great meeting. But I think we're going to do some good business. One of the things we'll talk about is the Russia-Ukraine. They're killing 7,000 people a week, soldiers, mostly soldiers, and we'll certainly be talking about that. He'd like to see that end too.
All right, so we have President Trump. They're very optimistic about this relationship between himself and the Chinese leadership, especially President Xi Jinping. He's saying there that a lot of good will come out of this. What do you make? Do you think that this framework that's now been sort of hinted at, is this going to now solidify? Is he going to get something which will allow him to then put pressure on vis-a-vis Xi Jinping to Putin?
I think this is a significant point in the context of U.S.-China future directions of their partnership in their relationship and the personal chemistry between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping itself. But I think there are 3 or 4 critical issues that we should not really overlook. If we, as you played rightly, what President Trump said, I think from his speech and from his initial remarks, one could draw the conclusion by saying that he wants to keep the optics positive, but at the same time quite firm, grounded, and practical. So there will be heated discussions with the Chinese coming up. Now, what will be this heated discussion? Of course, as you rightly pointed out, purchasing the Russian oil will figure significantly in the discussion. China is not going to stop purchasing the oil imports from Russia. India is not also going to stop the oil imports from Russia. But and also some of the Southeast Asian countries may not necessarily curb down their ties with Russia. But at the same time, President Trump would like to put more pressure on China and on some of the other Asian countries. More than that, I think if we see primarily in the context of U.S.-China rivalry, the 2 critical issues will come up. One is the focus on the critical minerals where this has been a contested issue between US and China, particularly on rare earth, because China controls almost 70% of the global rare earth minerals, and that's a huge numbers for the Americans to run the business. So therefore, there will be US demands to have a much more flexible approach when it comes to tariffs or control mechanisms. So there will be heated discussion and negotiation with the Chinese. The second issue is the soybean exports. Soybean exports has been a kind of critical issues, a contested issues between US and the Chinese leadership. What the Americans would like to see that their soybeans, exports should be welcomed in Chinese market more and more. And this is where the Chinese are going to leverage and probably bargain hard. So both the soybean exports and the rare earth exports are going to be two critical, contested issues between the US and China.
Right.
And I think also one issue.
I want to ask you on the rare earths, because I think that's important here. Also, just realistically, as you pointed out as well, I mean, the dominance of China in rare earths, we're looking at anywhere between 80 to 90%. I mean, realistically, can the United States even leverage this? I mean, if we're looking just at a typical F-35 top-of-the-line fighter jet that uses 418 kilograms of rare earths, I mean, that is something that is going to be very significant. But how can Trump really leverage anything here? Does he have the tools? I mean, what you're saying right now, that he's wasting his time.
Well, I don't think the Chinese leadership will succumb to any kind of pressure that Donald Trump would like to impose on them. And we also need to understand that China argues its control on the rare earth minerals are for environmental and national security purposes, and therefore, they have tried to prepare a context to negotiate hard with the American leadership. But we know for a fact that the Chinese leadership are using the rare earth minerals as a geopolitical tool, and this is where the Americans will, increase their pressure. And probably what we are going to see a negotiation being heated up between the US and the Chinese leadership are on three specific issues. One on the export permits on the rare earth minerals, on the quotas, and also on the environmental inspections. These are the three issues where the Chinese leadership has not really been transparent to the global communities, including to the American leadership. So the American leadership under Trump would like to question and probably grill and negotiate hard on these three particular issues. But we have to wait and see how much the Chinese leadership are making the concession.
Right. Also, speaking of what the Chinese are doing, I mean, Trump is obviously very positive and optimistic that he's going to get a deal. He's going to get something. He's going to walk away with something tangible. He has a wonderful relation with Xi Jinping. That's what he says. But what do you make of just now? I mean, with Taiwan also in the mix here a little bit. We've just had reports just actually today on Monday, the Chinese themselves have launched quite serious, what they're calling here simulated confrontation exercises with actually bombers, strategic bombers, nuclear-capable carrying bombers. What kind of signal does that send to when these two leaders meet together?
I think there is a tactical understanding which is going to emerge between the American leadership and the Chinese leadership. And Donald Trump is all about that, to have a transactional deal with the Chinese leadership. And when it comes to the issue of Taiwan, I don't think Trump would really make that brave effort in speaking or articulating quite openly to support the cause of Taiwan. So I think there might be a tactical understanding between the Chinese leadership and the American leadership on the Taiwan issue. And probably the Chinese would use that as a leverage to make some concession on the rare earth minerals and other issues. So therefore, we might see under Trump 2.0, the Taiwan issue being buried gradually. And this is a huge setback for the entire Indo-Pacific communities, as well as for the larger Euro-Atlantic security framework. Because if Taiwan is going to be targeted militarily or peacefully by the Chinese leadership in times to come, and if the Americans remain non-committal under Donald Trump, then it will be too late for the Indo-Pacific communities or for the American strategic communities and the allies communities to defend the cause of Taiwan. So I think this visit is significant with regard to the Taiwan cause, and I don't think Trump is going to be really committal and probably bargain hard with the Chinese leadership to gain much more practically on the economic issues. And the Chinese leadership would also like to use this occasion to make some concession and probably, make a final decision about the Taiwan's future.
Okay, just quickly at the end, I do want to get your view on this because also recently Trump has said that he'd like China to help him out with Russia, and that obviously concerns Ukraine. Now, just a few days ago, President Zelensky said at a European Council summit of all the European leaders, I'm quoting here, China helps Russia, it doesn't help Ukraine, it's not interested in our victory. Do you think Trump will change Xi Jinping's mind? Just briefly at the end.
Well, I don't think there will be much, change in terms of Chinese understanding or Chinese policies are concerned with regard to Ukraine. China will continue to be a blind supporter to Russia, and therefore the Americans and particularly President Trump will be caught in a very delicate situation. I don't think Trump enjoys at this moment to have that, strategic bargaining chip in his favor. Given the fact that he has much more domestic issues, economic issues to deal with the Chinese leadership, I don't think Ukraine will matter much. So therefore, my hunch is that probably Ukraine would not really be discussed. What will be discussed probably how the Americans will exert the pressure to lessen the imports from Russia as far as oil imports are concerned, and probably there will be some tactical understanding entering between Trump and Xi Jinping. But I'm not hopeful that there will be any significant deal or outcome or any peace deal breaking kind of a deal is coming up between President Xi Jinping and President Trump.
All right, so it's going to be an interesting meeting. Nevertheless, we'll see what will come out of it. We'll get more of it as the week progresses. Look, thank you for those insights. Really appreciate it. Our guest here, Jagannath Panda, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay tuned. There's much more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away.